Catherine Wright had never thought of herself as special. She grew up in a small town with normal parents who worked hard. After high school, she worked even harder to get through college. Now she was an engineer who built rocket engines. She was smart and good at her job, but she lived a quiet life. That all changed when she met Alan Porter. Alan owned many fancy hotels across the country. His company, Stellar Hotels, made him very rich and famous in the business world. Catherine met him at a big charity event where she was talking about her engineering work. Alan noticed her right away. He liked that she talked about rockets and space with real excitement, not caring about impressing the rich people in the room. They started dating soon after. Catherine found it strange to suddenly be in Alan's world of wealth and luxury. He took her to fancy restaurants where meals cost more than she used to spend on food in a week. He flew her to Paris for the weekend just because. When he asked her to marry him 6 months later with a diamond ring that made her friends gasp, she said yes, because she loved him, not because of his money. For 6 years, their marriage worked well. Catherine kept her job designing rocket engines at Space Forward Technologies. Alan ran his hotel empire. They lived in a big house, but Catherine made sure it felt like a real home, not a showroom. Alan respected that she didn't want to quit her job to become a full-time rich man's wife. Today, Catherine was excited. She had made a breakthrough at work with a new engine design. She wanted to surprise Alan for lunch and tell him the news. She drove to the Stellar Prominence, Alan's best and most famous hotel in the city. The building rose 50 stories into the sky, all glass and steel that shone in the sun. Catherine parked her car, not the fancy one Alan had bought her, but her own older model that she drove to work. She walked into the grand lobby with its marble floors and huge crystal chandeliers. Catherine wore simple black pants and a blue button-up shirt, normal work clothes for an engineer. Her brown hair was tied back in a practical ponytail. Around her, women wore designer dresses and expensive jewelry. Men wore perfect suits. Catherine didn't care. She was used to being the plainest person in Alan's hotels. Bradley Wells, the hotel manager, saw her immediately. His face changed from a welcome smile to something colder when he recognized her. This was new. Usually Bradley was very nice to her. "Mrs. Porter," Bradley said, walking quickly toward her. "What a surprise to see you here today." "Hi, Bradley," Catherine said with a smile. "I wanted to surprise Alan for lunch. Is he in his office?" Bradley straightened his tie. "I'm afraid Mr. Porter is in important meetings all day. He left strict instructions not to be disturbed." Catherine frowned. "That's odd. He usually makes time for me. Can you at least let him know I'm here?" "I'm sorry, but that won't be possible," Bradley said. His voice had gotten even colder. "In fact, Mrs. Porter, I need to ask you to leave." "Leave? Why would I leave? I'm just going to wait for Alan in his office." Bradley moved closer and lowered his voice. "Mrs. Porter, your appearance today is not up to the standards of this establishment. You are making our guests uncomfortable." Catherine looked down at her clothes, then back at Bradley with shock. "These are normal work clothes, Bradley. I've come here dressed like this many times." "Things have changed," Bradley said. He raised his hand slightly, and Catherine noticed 2 security guards walking toward them. "Mr. Porter has implemented new policies about the hotel's image. I have been instructed to maintain certain standards." "You can't be serious," Catherine said, her voice rising. "I'm his wife, and this is his hotel," Bradley replied, "where certain standards must be maintained." The security guards reached them. They were both large men in dark suits with earpieces. They stood on either side of Catherine. "Please escort Mrs. Porter out," Bradley told them. "She is disturbing our guests." The guards each took one of Catherine's arms. She was so shocked she didn't resist at first. Around her, hotel guests were watching. Some looked confused. Others seemed to enjoy the drama. "Let go of me," Catherine said, finally finding her voice. "This is ridiculous. Call Alan right now." "Mr. Porter is aware of the new policies," Bradley said loudly so everyone could hear. "We are simply following his instructions regarding proper attire and behavior in the Stellar Prominence. The guards began walking Catherine toward the front doors. Her face burned with shame and anger. People were taking pictures with their phones. Tomorrow she would probably be in the gossip news. "You can't do this," she said, trying to pull away from the guards. "There must be some mistake." "The only mistake," Bradley said, following behind them, "was you thinking you could walk in here dressed like that and disrupt our business." They reached the front doors. The guards released her arms but stood blocking the entrance back into the hotel. Catherine stood on the sidewalk, stunned by what had just happened. Had Alan really ordered this? It seemed impossible. She reached for her phone to call him, but at that moment it began to ring. At the same time, her watch, a special device she had designed herself that monitored not just her health but also changes in the environment, began to vibrate on her wrist. The screen flashed with strange readings she had never seen before. Catherine ignored her ringing phone and looked at her watch. The device was detecting unusual radiation patterns and magnetic field fluctuations. As an engineer who specialized in advanced technology, she recognized that something very strange was happening. She looked up at the sky. It was a clear blue day with a few white clouds. Nothing seemed wrong. But her watch didn't make mistakes. If it detected unusual energy patterns, they were real. The phone kept ringing. She glanced at it. The call was from her boss, not Alan. That was strange. Her boss rarely called her directly. Catherine answered the phone. "Hello?" "Catherine, thank God you answered," her boss said. His voice sounded tense and frightened. "Where are you right now?" "Outside Alan's hotel," she said. "Why? What's wrong?" "Get somewhere safe." "Now," he said, "our satellites have detected multiple objects entering Earth's atmosphere. Big objects. They're slowing down." "Slowing down?" Catherine repeated. "Normal objects like meteors didn't slow down when entering the atmosphere." "Yes," her boss said. "Whatever they are, they're not natural and they're not ours. Catherine, I think we're about to have visitors. And based on their technology, we're going to need your engine design sooner than we thought." Catherine looked back at the hotel where she had just been humiliated. Then she looked at her watch, still flashing warnings. Then up at the sky again. Something was coming. And somehow being thrown out of her husband's hotel was about to become the least important thing that happened to her today. 3 days passed since Catherine was thrown out of Alan's hotel. She ignored his calls and messages. There were too many of them to count. At first, they were angry. He thought she had made a scene at his hotel based on what Bradley told him. Then the messages turned worried, then sorry, then desperate. Catherine read them all but answered none. She was too busy with something much bigger. The objects her boss had warned her about turned out to be 7 huge ships. They now hung in Earth's sky, visible to everyone. The largest one stayed above New York. Others positioned themselves above: London, Beijing, Moscow, Cairo, Rio de Janeiro, and Sydney. Each ship was about 3 miles long and shaped like a smooth teardrop. They glowed with a soft blue light. Catherine worked day and night at her lab. The government had contacted her directly the day after the ships arrived. They were interested in her new engine designs. Catherine had been developing a new way to make spacecraft move faster using less fuel. Now, with actual alien ships in the sky, her work had become the most important project on Earth. "Look at these readings," she said to her team of 20, engineers and scientists. They gathered around her computer screen. "The energy coming from those ships matches the theoretical patterns my engines were designed to create." "That's impossible," said Greg, her best engineer. "You only invented those engine patterns last year." "I know," Catherine said. She pushed her hair back from her tired face. "But somehow these aliens use the same kind of technology I've been working on, or at least something very similar." The lab door opened. 2 men in black suits entered. They were government agents who had been assigned to protect Catherine and her team. "Dr. Wright, you have visitors," one agent said. He never called her Mrs. Porter, only Dr. Wright. "I don't have time for visitors," Catherine said without looking up from her computer. "These visitors say they speak for the ships," the agent said, quietly. Everyone in the room froze. Catherine slowly stood up. Let them in, she said. The agent stepped aside. 3 people entered the room. They looked human, but something about them seemed odd. Their movements were too smooth. Their faces showed no expression. All 3 wore simple gray suits with no ties or jewelry. "Catherine Wright," said the tallest one, a woman with pale skin and white blonde hair. "We are representatives of the Ejected Confederation. We have been sent to make contact with you specifically." "Why me?" Catherine asked. Her heart beat fast, but she kept her voice steady. "Your work on propulsion systems has been noted by our observers," the woman said. "You have independently discovered principles that match our early space travel technology. This is rare and significant." The second visitor, a man with dark skin and no hair, spoke next. "We have monitored your planet for 73 years. In that time, only 3 humans have made discoveries that approach Vectal understanding of space travel. You are the third." Catherine tried to process this information. "You've been watching us for 73 years? Since the 1950s? "Yes," said the third visitor, a person whose features seemed to blend many different human races. "We observe many developing worlds. When a world reaches certain technological milestones, we make contact." "And my engine design is one of those milestones?" Catherine asked. "Yes," said the blonde woman. "It shows understanding of how space and energy can work together. It shows readiness." "Readiness for what?" Greg asked from behind Catherine. "Thur." 3 visitors turned their eyes to him, then back to Catherine. It was clear they only wanted to talk to her. "Readiness for introduction to the greater community of spacefaring species," the blonde woman said. "The Vectal Confederation includes 27 different intelligent species from 34 star systems." Catherine's mind raced with questions. Before she could ask any of them, her phone rang. The screen showed Alan's name and picture. It was the 40th time he had called in 3 days. Without thinking, she hit the decline button. The 3 visitors watched this action with interest. "Your mate partner attempts contact," said the dark-skinned man. "You decline. This is a social dynamic we wish to understand better." Catherine froze. "How do you know he's my husband?" "We observe all aspects of potential contact candidates," said the third visitor. "Your relationship with the resource distributor, Alan Porter, is part of our assessment." "Resource distributor?" Catherine repeated, confused. "He controls access to living spaces and food sources for many humans," explained the blonde woman. "This makes him a significant node in your social structure." Catherine almost laughed. They were talking about Alan's hotels as if they were some kind of important power centers, not just places where rich people stayed when traveling. "It's not that simple," she started to explain, but was interrupted by alarms blaring throughout the building. The government agents rushed back into the room. "Dr. Wright, we need to move you immediately," one said urgently. "The main Vectal ship is broadcasting a message across all communication channels worldwide. They're asking for you by name." On the lab's large wall screen, a news broadcast appeared. The reporter looked scared as she read from a paper. "The alien vessels, now identified as belonging to something called the Vectal Confederation, have issued their first public statement," the reporter said. "They are requesting the immediate presence of Dr. Catherine Wright to serve as Earth's representative in discussions. They say she has been selected based on her unique position at the intersection of Earth's technological and social systems." Catherine turned to the 3 visitors. "Is this your doing?" "No," said the blonde woman. "This comes directly from the Confederation leadership. We were sent only to make initial contact and assessment." "Why would they want me to represent Earth?" Catherine asked. "I'm just an engineer. There are world leaders, diplomats, people trained for this kind of thing." "You misunderstand," said the dark-skinned man. "You were not chosen randomly. You were chosen specifically because you understand both technology and human social structures. Your work spans both worlds. And your personal situation makes you particularly valuable," added the third visitor. "My personal situation?" Catherine asked. "Yes. 3 days ago, you were ejected from your mate partner's resource distribution center despite your high social status connection to him. This indicates you understand both privilege and its absence. You have experienced both power and powerlessness. This perspective is critical for representing a species accurately. Catherine was stunned. The aliens had been watching her so closely that they even knew about what happened at the hotel, and somehow, that humiliating experience was part of why they wanted her as Earth's representative. Before she could respond, the lab doors burst open again. This time, Alan rushed in, followed by several protesting security guards. "Catherine," he shouted out of breath. "Thank God I found you. The aliens are asking for you by name on every TV and radio channel. The whole world is looking for you." He stopped when he saw the three strange visitors. "Who are they?" "They're from the ships," Catherine said quietly. "And apparently, I've been chosen to speak for Earth." Alan stared at her, then at the visitors, then back at her. "Because of your engine designs?" "Partly," Catherine said. "And partly, it seems, because your hotel threw me out 3 days ago." The next morning, Catherine sat in a large meeting room at the United Nations building in New York. Around her were the most powerful people on Earth: the President of the United States, the leaders of Russia, China, and other major nations, top military generals, and famous scientists. Everyone watched Catherine with a mix of curiosity, hope, and doubt. Alan sat beside her. He had refused to leave her side since finding her at the lab. Catherine was still angry with him about the hotel incident, but there hadn't been time to talk about it. Too much was happening too fast. "Dr. Wright," said the U.S. President, "you need to understand the gravity of this situation. The fate of our entire planet may depend on these talks." "I understand," Catherine said. She was wearing the same simple work clothes as yesterday. There had been no time to change. Some of the world leaders looked at her plain outfit with disapproval, but Catherine didn't care. "But I still don't know why they chose me." "They said it themselves," Alan spoke up. "You understand both the technology and the social aspects. You bridge different worlds." The door opened. A group of military officers entered, looking serious. "The main Vectal ship is descending," one officer announced. "It will land in Central Park in 30 minutes. They are requesting that Dr. Wright meet them there, alone." The room erupted in voices. The president stood up. "Absolutely not," he said. "We can't send a civilian alone to meet potentially hostile aliens." "With all due respect, Mr. President," Catherine said, "they've had the power to destroy us since they arrived." "They haven't. I think we should do what they ask." "She's right," said a woman Catherine recognized as the head of NASA. "If they wanted to harm us, they could have done it already. Their technology is far beyond ours." After much debate, they agreed that Catherine would meet the Vectals, but with a small group watching from a distance. As they prepared to leave, Alan pulled Catherine aside. "Catherine, before you go, I need to explain about the hotel," he said urgently. "Bradley lied to me. He told me you came in making demands and causing a scene. The board members were there that day, and they've been pushing me to distance myself from you because of your government work. They think it's bad for our international business." Catherine stared at him. "So you took their side without even talking to me first?" "No. I didn't know what really happened until I saw the security video later. I fired Bradley immediately. I fired everyone involved. I even dissolved the entire board of directors." "You did what?" Catherine was shocked. "The board of directors represented billions of dollars in investment. I dissolved the board. I own 51% of the company, so I can do that." "Catherine, what they did to you was unforgivable. I won't have people like that in my company." Before Catherine could respond, they were interrupted. It was time to go to Central Park. Central Park had been cleared of all people. Military vehicles surrounded the area. In the center of the great lawn, a space had been cleared. Catherine stood there with Alan and a small group of officials. They watched as the enormous Vectal ship slowly descended from the sky. It was completely silent. No engine noise, no wind, nothing. It simply lowered until it hovered about 50 feet above the ground. A beam of blue light shot down from the ship to the ground in front of Catherine. Within the light, 3 figures appeared. They were not the same representatives who had visited her lab. These new visitors were clearly not human, though they had 2 arms, 2 legs, and 1 head like humans do. The tallest one had skin that shifted colors like an octopus. The second had a hard shell covering parts of its body. The third seemed to be made of connected crystal sections that moved smoothly together. "Catherine Wright of Earth," said the color-shifting one in perfect English. "I am High Monitor Elzin of the Vectal Confederation. We have chosen you as our point of contact with your species." Catherine stepped forward. "I'm honored, High Monitor, but I'm confused about why you chose me. I'm not a world leader or a diplomat." "That is precisely why you were chosen," said Elzin. "Leaders and diplomats speak for systems. You speak from experience. You understand both creation and connection." "Creation and connection?" Catherine repeated. "Your work creates new ways to move through space," Elzin explained. "This shows your understanding of physical principles. But you also navigate complex, social spaces. From your work in high technology to your connection with a resource controller, to your recent experience of status rejection, you understand how humans truly function, not just how they claim to function." Catherine glanced back at Alan, who looked embarrassed at the mention of status rejection. "The Confederation needs honest representatives," continued Elzin. "Not those who only speak of ideals while hiding realities." The crystal-like being stepped forward. "I am Pathweaver Zelks. I must explain our purpose here. The Vectal Confederation monitors developing species throughout this sector of the galaxy. When a species reaches certain technological levels, we make contact." "Why?" Catherine asked. "Because once a species can travel between stars, they become part of the greater community," said the third visitor, the one with the partial shell. "This can be dangerous for both the new species and existing ones if not managed properly." "Are we at that level?" Catherine asked. "We can barely reach our own moon." "Your personal work on propulsion systems shows you are very close," said Elzin. "Within 20 years, humans would have discovered principles that would allow faster-than-light travel. We prefer to make contact before that happens." Catherine was stunned. Her engine designs, which she thought were just more efficient ways to move through space, apparently contained principles that could lead to faster-than-light travel. "We need to understand your species better before full contact proceeds," said Zelks. "We propose a cultural exchange. We will share limited technological information. You will share your social understanding." "Me specifically?" Catherine asked. "Yes," confirmed Elzin. "Your unique position at the intersection of multiple human systems makes you ideal. The incident at your mate partner's status location demonstrated this clearly." Catherine felt her face grow warm with embarrassment. "You keep mentioning that. Was me getting thrown out of my husband's hotel really that important?" "Extremely," said the shelled being. "When it happened, your mate partner chose connection loyalty over resource protection. He destroyed his power structure rather than lose you. This behavior is rare among spacefaring species." Catherine turned to look at Alan with new understanding. He had dissolved his board of directors, essentially dismantling part of his company's power structure because of what they did to her. "So you're interested in us because we make emotional decisions?" Catherine asked, turning back to the aliens. "Precisely," said Elzin. "Most species make logical choices to maximize resources or power. Humans often make choices based on connections, even when those choices reduce power or resources. This is unusual and potentially valuable to the Confederation." For the first time since the aliens arrived, Catherine smiled. "So you're saying our messy human emotions might actually be our greatest strength?" "Indeed," said Elzin. "And now we must begin formal discussions. The future of Earth's place in the greater community depends on what we learn from each other." 6 months passed since the Vectals first landed in Central Park. The world had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Catherine now lived in a special building constructed near the United Nations. Half of the building was designed for humans, and half was designed for the Vectal representatives who stayed on Earth. Every day, Catherine met with the aliens to share information. She taught them about human culture, emotions, and social systems. They taught her about space travel, alien cultures, and the rules of the Confederation. It was the most important job on Earth, but sometimes Catherine missed her old life of just designing engines. Today, she sat in a large meeting room with High Monitor Elzen, who had become something like a friend over the months. On the table, between them was a small device that looked like a glass cube. Inside the cube, tiny points of light moved in complex patterns. "This is a model of your solar system," Elzen explained. "The Confederation has been studying it for decades. We believe your system contains resources that will be valuable to both humans and other species." "What kind of resources?" Catherine asked. "Certain rare elements in your asteroid belt, materials on your outer planet's moons, and something unique about your sun's radiation signature that creates possibilities for new energy systems." Catherine nodded. She had learned that the Confederation wasn't interested in conquering Earth or taking its resources. They operated more like a galactic trade organization, helping species work together for mutual benefit. "The Council has made a decision," Elzen continued. "Earth will be offered provisional membership in the Confederation." Catherine sat up straight. This was huge news. "Provisional membership? What does that mean exactly?" "Your species will be granted limited access to Confederation technology and trade routes. You will be allowed to establish a small presence beyond your solar system. In return, you will agree to follow Confederation laws regarding contact with other species and resource management." "That sounds like a good deal," Catherine said. "But why provisional?" "Full membership is granted only when a species demonstrates long-term stability and cooperation. The provisional period typically lasts 100 Earth years." Catherine thought about this. A century was a long time for humans, but she had learned that for many alien species it was quite short. Some Confederation members lived for thousands of years. "I'll present this to our leaders today," she said. "I think they'll be very interested." "There is one more thing," Elzen said. "The Council requests that you personally lead the first human mission beyond your solar system." Catherine was shocked. "Me? But I'm not an astronaut. I design engines. I don't fly ships." "The Council believes your understanding of both human emotion and Confederation technology makes you ideal for this role, and your mate partner would be welcome to join the mission." Catherine hadn't seen much of Alan during these busy months. He had been working hard to rebuild his company after dissolving the board. They had patched up their relationship, but both were so busy they rarely had time together. "I'll need to think about this," Catherine said, "and talk to Alan." Later that day, Catherine met Alan for dinner at their home. She had moved back in with him 3 months ago, after they had worked through their issues about the hotel incident. "The Vectals have offered Earth provisional membership in the Confederation," she told him after they sat down to eat. Alan looked up from his food with wide eyes. "That's amazing news. The whole world has been waiting for this." "There's more," Catherine said. "They want me to lead the first human mission to another star system." Alan put down his fork. "Like, go to another planet? Leave Earth?" "Yes. And they said you could come too." Alan was quiet for a long time. Catherine knew he was thinking about his business. Stellar Hotels had just started to recover from the shakeup when he fired the board. "What about my company?" he finally asked. "That's what I thought you'd say," Catherine said, trying to hide her disappointment. "It's okay. I understand you can't just leave everything behind." "No, I'm not saying no," Alan said quickly. "I'm just thinking through the details. Actually, I've been working on something I haven't told you about yet." He took out his tablet and showed Catherine some designs. They looked like hotel floor plans, but with strange layouts. "What is this?" she asked. "I've been working with some engineers to design space habitats," Alan explained. "Like hotels, but for space. I thought if humans ever got the chance to go to the stars, we'd need comfortable places to live. Places that feel like home, not just metal boxes." Catherine looked at the designs with new interest. "These are really good. The Vectals have shown me some of their living spaces, and these compare well. So maybe I could bring this project with us," Alan suggested. "If we're going to be the first humans living among aliens, we should have a nice place to stay. And maybe other humans who visit later would want to stay in a familiar environment too." Catherine smiled. Once again, Alan was thinking like a hotel owner, even when planning for space travel. But she had to admit it made sense. Humans would need comfortable places to live and work if they started traveling to other star systems. "Think that's a great idea," she said. "We could present it to the Vectals as part of our preparation for the mission." The next day, Catherine and Alan met with Elzen and the other Vectal representatives. They brought Alan's space habitat designs. The aliens studied them with interest. "These designs show good understanding of human comfort needs," said Zelks, the crystal-like alien, "but they would need modifications to work with our technology." "I'm open to any suggestions," Alan said. "I want to create spaces where humans can feel at home, even when they're light years from Earth." Elzen turned to Catherine. "Your mate partner continues to demonstrate the qualities that interest us about humans. He combines practical resource management with emotional awareness." "That's just good business," Alan said with a smile. "People stay longer and pay more when they feel comfortable and happy." "Most species separate these functions," Elzen explained. "Resource managers focus only on efficiency. Comfort providers focus only on emotional states. Humans often combine them, looking for what you call win-win solutions." Catherine realized again why the Vectals found humans so interesting. What seemed obvious to her and Alan, that practical solutions should also consider emotional needs, was apparently rare among other intelligent species. "So when would this mission happen?" Alan asked. "Preparation would take 1 Earth year," Elzen said. "We would provide a ship with our technology, but modified to be controlled by humans. Catherine's engine designs would be incorporated, though enhanced with our knowledge." Catherine felt excitement building inside her. From being a simple engineer to being ejected from her husband's hotel, to now preparing to lead humanity's first mission to the stars, her life had taken an incredible journey. "I accept the mission," she said firmly, "and I think many other humans will want to join us." "Excellent," said Elzen. "The Confederation welcomes Earth as a provisional member. May our species grow and learn together." For the first time, the alien extended a color-shifting hand toward Catherine. She reached out and shook it, sealing the agreement that would change human history forever. 1 year later, Catherine stood on the bridge of the Earth's first interstellar spaceship. The ship was called the Horizon, and it combined Vectal technology with Catherine's engine designs. Through the large front window, she could see Earth, growing smaller as they moved away from it. The blue planet looked peaceful from space with its swirls of white clouds and vast oceans. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Alan said, coming to stand beside her. "Hard to believe we're actually leaving it behind." Catherine nodded. "For now. We'll be back in 6 months." The mission plan was to travel to the Proxima Centauri star system, the closest one to Earth. There, they would help establish a small, human outpost on one of the planets the Vectals had already surveyed. The journey would take only 3 weeks using the new engines, a trip that would have taken thousands of years with Earth's old technology. The crew of the Horizon included 30 humans chosen from countries around the world. Scientists, engineers, doctors, and even a few artists made up the team. Alan had been put in charge of habitat construction once they reached their destination. His designs for human living spaces had been approved by both Earth governments and the Vectal Confederation. "Captain Wright," called one of the crew members from a control panel. "The Vectal escort ships are signaling. They're ready to begin acceleration to light speed when you give the order." Catherine still felt strange being called captain. She was an engineer, not a ship's captain. But the Vectals had insisted that she lead this historic mission. And Earth's leaders had agreed. "Tell them we're ready," Catherine said. "Prepare the engines for light speed." The crew moved with purpose around the bridge. Most of them had trained for months to learn how to operate the new technology. Catherine watched with pride. These were the best people Earth had to offer, and they were making history together. "Engine systems ready," reported Greg, Catherine's old colleague who now served as chief engineer. "Communication systems ready," said another crew member. One by one, all stations reported ready. Catherine took a deep breath. "Engage light-speed engines," she ordered. The view outside the window changed. The stars stretched into lines of light, and then the ship was traveling faster than anyone from Earth had ever traveled before. They were on their way to another star. 3 weeks later, the horizon approached the Proxima Centauri system. The star looked much like Earth's sun, but with a redder glow. As they got closer, they could see planets orbiting around it. The third planet was their destination, a world the Vectals called Terra Nova, which meant New Earth in Latin. The ship moved into orbit around Terra Nova. Through the windows, they could see a world with blue oceans and brown-green continents. It wasn't exactly like Earth. The plants had a more purple tint, and the sky leaned more toward green than blue, but it was similar enough that humans could live there without special equipment. "It's amazing," Alan said, standing by the window. "Just think. 6 months ago, I was worrying about hotel occupancy rates. Now I'm looking at an alien planet where I'll build the first human settlement beyond our solar system." Catherine smiled. "And a year and a half ago, I was being thrown out of your hotel." Alan took her hand. "That was the worst mistake of my life. And somehow it led to the greatest adventure in human history." The Vectals would say it was a perfect example of how humans turn personal connections into larger opportunities, Catherine said. The landing party prepared to go down to the surface. Catherine, Alan, and 10 other crew members would be the first humans to set foot on another world outside Earth's solar system. They boarded a smaller ship that would take them down through the atmosphere. As the landing ship descended, Catherine thought about the strange journey that had brought her here. From being humiliated in her husband's hotel lobby to leading humanity's first mission to another star, it seemed impossible. Yet here she was. The ship touched down on a flat plain near the coast of one of Terra Nova's oceans. The team put on light breathing masks. The air was safe but had slightly different oxygen levels than Earth, and prepared to exit. "Ready?" Catherine asked Alan. He nodded, looking both nervous and excited. Catherine pressed the button to open the door. Sunlight, light from an alien sun, streamed in. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, becoming the first human to walk on a planet around another star. The ground felt solid beneath her feet. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's, making each step feel bouncy. The team spread out, taking samples and readings. Alan began surveying the area where they would build the first human settlement. He placed markers for where buildings would go. The main structure would be a combined research station and living quarters, essentially a hotel for the scientists and workers who would come later. In the distance, they could see a Vectal ship landing. The aliens had come to welcome them officially to this new world. High Monitor Elzin was among them. "Catherine Wright of Earth," Elzin said when they met on the purple-tinged grass. "You have successfully led your species to another star. The Confederation welcomes humanity to the wider galaxy." "Thank you, High Monitor," Catherine replied. "This is just our first step." "Indeed," said Elzin. "Your species has much to offer. Your unique combination of technological creativity and emotional connection will bring new perspectives to our community." Later that day, as the team set up temporary shelters, Catherine and Alan stood on a small hill overlooking the landing site. The sun was setting, casting an orange-red glow over the landscape. "Do you ever think about how strange it is?" Alan asked. "That day at the hotel changed everything. The Vectals would say it showed them something important about humans," Catherine said. "How we can take a bad situation and turn it into something good." "I still feel terrible about it," Alan admitted. "Don't," Catherine said. "If it hadn't happened, we might not be standing here right now. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes." She looked out at the alien sunset. Soon, they would build the first human settlement on this world. Other ships would follow. Humanity would take its place among the stars. And it all began because a simple woman was ejected from her CEO husband's 5-star hotel. Life was strange that way. Sometimes the biggest doors opened after the most humiliating moments. Catherine smiled as the alien sun disappeared below the horizon, ending the first day of humanity's new chapter among the stars.